Episode 3 is a turning point in the series. After introducing our main characters in the first episode, and having them support each other in the second, it's now time to move things forward in a substantial way. A big theme of this episode is relationships. Kotoru and Akane's peers are getting into shotgun romances, Akane is nearly confessed to by Hira, and Kotoru is made aware of this potential relationship, but let's start at the beginning. The exam scenes exist to plant a seed for later and reinforce a point. The seed being planted is that Kotoru is not an academic achiever, as he struggles with his tests and doesn't study. It also reinforces that Akane and Kotoru don't interact in person, as Akane watches him with his friends from a distance, showing more interest in the mechanics of his platonic dynamic than getting involved in it. As far as episode 3 seeds go, it also plants the idea of Akane moving to Tokyo, which won't be relevant for a long while yet, and that her friend Nishio, despite being Akane's most avid supporter, is jealous of her success in a rivalry kind of way. This marks the starting point of her arc, which will eventually involve Kotoru as well. We begin the episode's true narrative when we learn that the first story Kotoru submitted to a competition, the one we saw him post in episode 1, was not accepted. This bums him out, and he's embarrassed to admit this defeat to the bookstore owner when confronted. The significance of trying to hide this loss from the bookstore owner is that Kotoru is refusing to confide in his only source of mentorship and camaraderie when it comes to writing. If he isn't going to tell the bookstore owner, then it stands to reason that he isn't going to tell his friends or family either. Initially seeking an outlet for his disappointment, Kotoru decides to reach out to Akane over line later that night. Kotoru already feels better getting to talk to Akane, and appreciates how easy she is to talk to over line compared to in person. When Akane mentions her own struggles with running, Kotoru, now seeing a chance for more than comfort, asks for advice. What do you do when you can't make things work? And Akane, without hesitation, parrots Kotoru's advice back to him. I think you're fine the way you are. Now, one might point out that she isn't aware of Kotoru's passion, and therefore doesn't know if his literature club work is any good. But she doesn't have to know his skill level. Just knowing that some kind of failure has disappointed him lets Akane know that the passion exists, and she makes clear that he shouldn't be deterred by a setback because someone with his passion will inevitably bounce back. She follows this up by reminding him that these are the words he had used for her. She tells him that he really helped her that day, and that she felt the same way about him, that he was fine, that he shouldn't be embarrassed or discouraged, that his passion for his work shows and that his determination will see him through. During track club after this, Akane is once again confronted by the idea that she and Hira are destined to be together, this time by her best friends. She initially questions them on this and looks embarrassed, but then looks up at Hira, seemingly curious about whether they might make a good couple or not. They're friendly with each other, they have a bunch in common, he's not a bad-looking dude, maybe her friends are onto something. Kotoru also has romance on the brain. After the advice from Akane, he puts his faith into an old literature club superstition, that if you grab a random book, you'll find advice for your current situation. He chooses a book at random and reads the following. At the very least, I don't believe romance comes down to chance. I believe it comes down to volition. Meaning that romance is all about willpower and pursuing what you want instead of leaving things up to pure chance. This is advice he will later act on. As he is leaving the school, he overhears Akane's friends talking about Akane being asked out by Hira, and how she is unlikely to say no. Kotoru tries to get this information out of Akane but loses his nerve. This serves as something of a ticking clock, an incentive for Kotoru to act on his feelings before it is too late to do so. He does learn from this conversation that her track meet is on Sunday, and he communicates that while he cannot attend, he will pray for her while he is at the shrine for neighborhood association duties. This conversation serves both to set up the divide between them later in this episode, and explain a later plot point. During the track meet, we get the scene where Hira almost confesses to Akane. He decides against it when he hears someone cheer for a friend and realizes that asking Akane out before her race would probably impact her performance. Whether Akane is aware of what was about to happen is unclear. Yes, she does appear to be bracing herself, but this could also be interpreted as bracing for a serious conversation. The fact that she doesn't reflect on this exchange tells me that she probably didn't realize what Hira was going to say. We then get a montage where Kotoru prays at the shrine while Akane prepares for and runs her race. The intricate detail put into the rituals Kotoru does emphasizes his focus on praying for Akane's success. Following the race, Akane and Kotoru want to contact each other, but Kotoru is too nervous and Akane's battery dies before she gets a chance. This may seem cliché, but we're not really supposed to get much from this sequence beyond a setup for the next, when Akane meets Kotoru at the shrine. Before I talk about this scene, I want to make a point about the show's writing. Coincidence is nothing new to romance anime. Takagi and Nishikata always get seats next to each other, Taiga and Ryuji happen to be neighbours, and in a lesser show, this too would just be a crazy coincidence. Now, I'm not bringing this up to talk poorly about Takagi-san or Toradora, but to point out how little Tsuki ga Kirei has relied on coincidence up to this point. The most coincidental thing to have happened in this show was Akane and Kotoru's family being next to each other in a restaurant. Beyond that, the equipment group was large enough that it isn't unreasonable that they both end up in it. Kotoru finds the lost stress relief toy not out of luck, but because he is explicitly looking for it. And Akane meets him here because she wanted to see him and knew from their earlier conversation that he would be here. I like this because it gives our characters a sense of agency. As I said in the first video, they're not fated to be together by destiny, but rather through each other's actions. Once Kotoru guides her away from the watching eyes of the bookstore owner, we get one of the most important scenes in the entire show. So it only makes sense that I slow down a little and explore this scene in depth. The two sit in awkward silence. They aren't used to talking face to face like this, so it stands to reason that they need a social warm-up to get started. Akane finds this warm-up by asking what Kotoru is holding. When Kotoru nervously handles them, possibly embarrassed about the performance in his near future, Akane figures out that they are for his part in a parade for the Kawegoe Festival, the festival we see in the show's OP. Kotoru shyly admits that Akane is correct, but is surprised when Akane excitedly commends him. Kotoru then finally works up the nerve to ask Akane how the track meet was. She tells him that she set a new personal record, and Kotoru congratulates her with more enthusiasm than he has shown all conversation. Kotoru then admits that he had wanted to ask her earlier, and Akane admits that her battery had died. This exchange tells both characters that despite the nerves and awkwardness between them, they really do want to talk to each other. Akane confirms this by stating that she had explicitly come to the shrine looking for him, and implies that she was very happy to have succeeded. After some silence, Akane thinks to herself with a flushed face that this is weird, probably referring to the fact that she is so nervous. There's something I should mention here. I don't think Akane fully comprehends her romantic feelings towards Kotoru at this point. She was initially nervous around him because he was a boy she was attracted to, and she now likes him as a friend because he was able to cheer her up after the sports festival, a feat that not even her own track club buddy could do. While she is flustered and nervous, I don't think she fully comprehends why, hence the thought she made to herself that this interaction was weird. Kotoru then wonders to himself whether the term I love you was translated into Isn't the Moon Beautiful Tonight by Dazai or Natsume. We know it was Natsume. He then looks over to Akane and appreciates her beauty in the moonlight. When she looks back at him, he mentions the moon to break the tension. When Akane takes a look at the moon, she responds, "It sure is pretty, isn't it?" before giving a cheeky grin to Kotoru, seemingly knowing exactly what it meant to him. Kotoru is blown away by this, and it is here that he acts on the advice that he had read in the random book. Nervous but determined, he asks her out. She reacts to this request with shock. She had not seen this coming and doesn't know what to say. Unfortunately, we do not find out how this exchange ended until the next episode. We instead cut to the ED, which this time has a conversation between the boyfriend and girlfriend from episode 1. This time the conversation is rather one note. The boyfriend sends consecutive messages asking whether the receiver is home yet, and laments that he is worried. Sometime later, the girlfriend responds apologizing, but the boyfriend is supposedly already asleep. There's not much to dig into with this line chat, but it's still worth bringing up. As always, if you want to read it for yourself, which I highly recommend, I will leave a link to the Brown Rice Cookies site in the description. And that is all for this analysis. I'd like to thank my patrons: Orion Tran, Lars Espen, Data52, Jamman5, Lemon Shark, Pix Caliber, Alberto Cruz, Tyler Bennett, Tenka, Jeremy Pashik, Fireclaw, Soren, and Christopher Wang. If you too would like to support the channel further, consider becoming a patron yourself. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.